Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Louis Amestoy here on the Bako Motorsports Power Hour. I'm your host for today's show. And interestingly enough, the man, the myth himself, Mike Griffith, is still on vacation. Was he? Yeah, he was on vacation last week because we had Mike Mosier in here.
Yep.
Grumpy Griff. Let me get through all the formatics before I introduce my dramatic and important co-host. This is show is brought to you by the Bakersfield Californian. And this is show number 13, and you got to love this shot. This is even funnier now that believe me, trust me, Grape Ape is cool. It's even cooler that Tom Mock sent this photo to me because we have sort of an ongoing gag going on that's completely inappropriate to discuss. But you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. And this is from the Summit series on Saturday. We've got Blake Bowser is our co-host, and he saw that firsthand, right?
I did.
That's a pretty good-looking car there. How was the car count?
It was good, real good. It was, Summit cars close to 100. We had another 35 or 38 West Coast Hot Rod.
Nice.
And about 40 cars just testing tuning. So it was a nice weekend.
We're going to talk a little bit more of that in our second segment. First segment after this introduction will be Bakersfield Speedway. Big night of racing there last week, and they're running this weekend. Then we'll have Famoso, and then followed up by Kern County Raceway Park. Steve Hughes will be here for our final segments as we also announce the Driver of the Week. And I tell you what, it is hot. There's a lot of conversations here about Driver of the Week. We have Derek Thorne, Johnny Bedingfield, Cody Laney, Brian Childress. Nicholas Johnson, who I'll mention here in a minute, is our first non-winner to be in the Driver of the Week category because Brian Childress, who beat Nicholas Johnson, said, this kid deserves to be in this conversation. He is something else. 13 years old, and he's driving that American stock at Bakersfield Speedway. He's always in contention. Terry Pettit, I think I had his name spelled wrong, but Terry Pettit with two T's there. He won mini stocks over at Kern County Raceway Park. Then we have a few of your guys.
Got some Famoso guys
Eric
coming up.
Truby, and Keith Morovich. I think they're A-Gas, B-Gas guys.
Yes.
And
actually, Eric Truby is Super Pro.
Super Pro, okay.
Yes, in Summit Series.
Right. And Cheyenne Flippo, Kevin Collier, Roger Holder, Brandon Stallnaker, Lee Jensen, and Ed Coffey. Roger Holder, he won at your guys' place? Or
He did. He won in the West Coast Hot Rod, and he also races out at the Speedway also.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that.
I think he double-dipped this weekend. He went out Saturday night and raced at Speedway.
And he won a heat race at the Speedway.
Did he? Okay, yeah. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
okay.
He won a heat race.
I
got to look at the sheets again. But
Roger Holder's car ran 4:34, over 180 miles an hour
Holy
in the
smokes.
8th mile.
Wow.
That's half a quarter mile, and that car was flying.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, the way that this thing works is we have two Driver of the Week things. We have the Griff pick. He's not here, so I'll be my pick. And then we have the fan pick right now. And I was looking at the votes on that, and we're going to announce that a little bit later. But let me just see. I'm going to have to vote for Roger Holder on this whole thing because you know what? I mean,
I appreciate the effort on his part. That's pretty cool to run around and.
I had to double check that again because I was looking at that. So right now we've got 3,000 votes in. Nicholas Johnson is leading the vote totals, but Derek Thorne, Ed Coffey, they're all there. Lee Jensen, Cheyenne Flippo. We've got Roger Holder's got a couple hundred votes right now. Eric Truby, you said he's got a couple hundred votes as well.
Awesome.
So the guys from Famoso are coming in. So props to Rob Gibson for posting that on the Facebook page for Famoso as well, and we appreciate that. Let's go on to some other things. By the way, this is Griff's road trip. He's still grumpy. He is still grumpy. Who is bothering me now? Okay, Griff's road trip. I
hope those are pine cones in the background there. I don't think they are, though.
I don't think so either. Actually, no, I think they shot this picture in Bend, Oregon, and he sent me a note that he might be bringing this home because he has a menagerie already. And he said,
he does.
Doesn't really trust llamas because they spit. And I said, well, then don't make it upset.
Yeah, pretty simple.
But Mike, continuing his road trip, as he drives an old Suburban from Idaho to California while pulling a trailer full of his daughter's stuff. So I'm not sure if that's a vacation or side job. So there you go.
That's what parents do, though.
That's what parents do.
Yep.
All right, let's talk a little bit about Indianapolis 500. That's coming up this weekend. I was going to ask you, Blake.
Yeah.
you've obviously seen, the major winter national stuff. You've seen the major sports, a lot of big stuff. Would going to the Indy 500 and seeing that trophy, which is pretty darn cool still, would that be on a bucket list?
Absolutely. I've been to the track before, never actually been there for a race. Been to U.S. Nationals twice for drag racing, and actually toured the track and toured the museum, which is in the infield there. And boy, just a massive place. And I just want to go there and see how many hot dogs they sell. I just want to go look and see how do they do this, because they're selling them. Because every time they have a race, all the food wrappers get on the track, and they always have cars overheating because of getting sucked in there.
Wrappers are pulled into it.
Yeah, so I just want to go and just watch how do they pull this off.
It's such a massive facility, too.
Yeah. And there is parking, all around that place. Just unreal. And it fills up during the race. So love to go. Yeah, that'd be on my list for sure.
It's always fun to talk to Mike about this because, back in the day, the paper would actually rent a house for Mike for a month. And he would be there for the month and following, what was going on. I mean, there were so many Bakersfield guys racing. So
yeah.
So I always like that too. You always look at it from the business side of it. Things.
Yeah, I do. Everywhere I go.
How many?
Yeah.
What are they doing?
They're in Bristol for the Cup race. I want to go to Bristol and just how do they fit that many fans around a little short track like that? So
hey, one other quick question for you on bucket list racing. What about internationally? What would you like to see internationally?
Le Mans. I'd love to go to Le Mans, or even this weekend they're racing. F1 is in Monaco. That'd be cool. But, yeah,
but like some of these
find
guys,
room for my yacht to fit in there, to see if I can fit it in a spot.
Just pull it in there, right?
You
need to have about maybe 25,000, 30,000 more people show up for a March meet to get that to happen.
Yeah.
The guys I'm interested in, some of those guys that do drag racing in other parts of the world, it'd be interesting to go see their setups too.
I'd like to go to Australia as well for a drag race. It really is catching on there tremendously. Europe's always had a strong following in drag racing, but Australia is really picking up pace there. A lot of nostalgia funny cars are going there.
Yeah.
So, I'd like to go down there for a drag race too.
Okay. All right. Well, quickly, we have the poll for the Scott Dixon will be on the poll for the Indianapolis 500 for the second time in his career. And, there's a lot of something going on there. Had a pretty serious accident with James Hinchcliffe, who was basically in critical condition. He was in ICU for a while in a serious crash. Of course, the Helio Castroneves crash was ridiculous. And so they had to make some rule changes going into this to kind of maybe slow the cars down on one of those turns. And it was that Helio Castroneves was amazing that he was not, and he walked away from that.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
That thing just lifted right up in the air, didn't it? Like they used to. It was kind of, you seeing what they used to be doing, 15, 20 years ago, and what used to be sadly it used to be before they start the race, it was the line, "Gentlemen, start your coffins."
Right.
Now they've made it obviously a lot safer, and obviously the racers are safe, and first and foremost the fans. You don't want anything happening there, so it's good to see them jumping in, trying to get some safer situation here.
The situation with Hinchcliffe that was late last night. He was in stable condition at the Indianapolis Hospital and undergo further evaluations following Monday's crash. This is according to IndyCar's website. So it's been a pretty scary situation there for those guys. All right, let's move on now to NASCAR. And Hamlin gets the win in Charlotte for the All-Star race. But this guy, it's like every week we can just have the same headline. Just misses again, finishes second. It's incredible his consistency, Kevin Harvick's consistency, in the circuit. He continues to do great things. But Denny Hamlin with another win, so he gets $1 million out of that. Not a bad payday.
No.
And this almost looks like Brian Richardson, a picture with Brian Richardson at Kern County Raceway Park. How many people can we jam into the photo at one time? So, although you guys jam a lot of guys into pictures on your victory lane. I mean, there's a lot of guys on there. So
we don't pass out $1 million check.
No,
but,
that's true. If you had $1 million, $1 million check, we'd probly get a lot
more people standing in the winner circle area. Yeah.
Then if you can pass out $1 million check, you'd definitely be going to Monaco. Harvick finished second at the All-Star race. He's still first in the Sprint Cup standings. That was not a points deal there, but quote, as soon as Denny moved up at that one time, I kind of took the air off. I had committed to the middle of the corner. Once I got to the middle of the corner, the car just washed all the way up the racetrack, and I had to lift way off the gas to get the car back off the wall. So Kevin Harvick explained some of his difficulties with that particular race.
Yeah.
I took out all the parts where he had every sponsor listed. It's amazing how they're so good at sponsors.
They tie them in.
They tie them in.
Yeah,
it's just amazing. I gotta think they have to work on that in some capacity because I can't remember what day it is half the time. I don't know who my sponsors are.
Yeah.
Casey Mears ran on Friday night in the Sprint Challenge race. He finished 10th. He's still 20th in the Sprint Cup standings. And coming up this weekend, in Charlotte again, the Coca-Cola 600. And I know Harvick is looking forward to this opportunity. So it's a big weekend of racing. As we mentioned, Monaco. We've got the Indy 500 and the Coca-Cola 600. And then they go to Dover next Sunday. So we'll see how that shapes up. Ryan Reed finishes 12th in the Xfinity race in Iowa. He remains 8th in the Xfinity standings. Quite a bit of drama in this race, but we'll talk about that more later. And the Southern Nationals, we got all these great photos. Antron Brown continuing to roll in Top Fuel. He beats Leah Pritchett, who makes her first Top Fuel final of the season. There she is. I think that's supposed to be her.
Actually,
is that one of the forces?
One of the forces.
Yeah.
That's their new Monster Energy car, new sponsor in Top Fuel Dragster.
Because she's in the Gum Out car.
Leah is, yes.
Leah is, right. Mm-hmm. There's a big story about one of the forces who is getting married to, is it Courtney? Is getting married to one of the Rahals?
To one of the IndyCar guys, yeah.
Right. There's Leah Pritchett, who, by the way, got to follow her on Instagram. No joke. Antron Brown. This guy, here's something about about motorsports. I think if you're going to be successful at the high end, you got to be fit. And look at how fit this guy is.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if you knew, he used to race pro stock motorcycles.
Oh, really?
Raced for years and won a lot of races and then converted over to Top Fuel cars and just picked up where he left off from pro stock bikes and just going,
Yeah, I mean, the level, we've seen this from Ron Capps and Fast Jack Beckman.
Funny story about Antron, I don't know if we have time.
Go ahead.
The first time he was licensing the car, you steer a bike by leaning. You don't turn the wheel. You lean and it goes with you. Well, he made his first run down a Top Fuel car and the car kind of drifted off. And they said, "Why didn't you steer the car?" He says, He was leaning in the car, but in a Top Fuel car, you got to turn the wheel.
Yeah, right. You can't lean that.
You can't do that. But he learned quickly.
Some more of the pictures from this, and again, a great weekend of Southern Nationals. And there's the John Force's car. And there's the Leah Pritchett machine, the Gum Out machine. And great weekend of racing.
You had a good weekend there. Yeah.
Later today, by the way, NASCAR is going to announce its Hall of Fame class. Buddy Baker won 19 times in NASCAR's premier series. These are some of the guys that are on there. Red Byron, Richard Childress, Jerry Cook, Ray Everham, Ray Fox, Rick Hendrick, Harry Hyde, Bobby Isaac, Alan Kowicki, Terry Labonte, Mark Martin, Herschel McGriff, Raymond Parks, Benny Parsons, Larry Phillips, Bruton Smith, Mike Stefanik, and Curtis Turner and Robert Yates. Those are all guys who will be nominated for the Hall of Fame. They announced that at 3 o'clock today. And finally, I got to just point this out real quick. What an unbelievable story. David Reagan on NASCAR. This weekend they're doing a lot of honoring of veterans and everything for the Coca-Cola 600. And David Reagan, who drives the number 55 car for Michael Waltrip Racing, he is going to honor a guy who I'm very familiar with, Sergeant Brian Brewster. And Brian Brewster's father and I worked together for many years. And Lou Brewster, who is a longtime motorsports rider here in Southern California, has covered Bakersfield events, is one of the more respected NHRA guys, always a fixture at the Winter Nationals. Well, his son Brian was killed in Afghanistan in 2006. And this kid was unbelievable. He was a sergeant. He was in the 101st Airborne. He was in the 10th Mountain Division. I mean, this guy was a real American hero, and they were killed in a helicopter crash, high-altitude crash in the mountains of it. And I remember vividly the day that died. I went to the funeral, and John Force was there. Yeah. And John Force, was always supportive. But David Reagan in NASCAR stepping up, and it will on his windshield will say, in honor of Sergeant Brian Brewster. And for all of us who lived through that period of time, it's something that's really special. But for those of us who know Lou Brewster in the motorsports community, it's truly an honor, and I'm so proud that NASCAR's done this for Louis and his family, and in memory of Sergeant Brian Brewster. That's what it's all about. So Memorial Day weekend coming up. Hope you remember those veterans that served in this country on behalf of our freedom. We'll be right back with more here on the Bako Motorsports Power Hour, brought to you by Bakersfield, California.